Hi everyone, and welcome to our course on E3D 4.0 in Unified Engineering. This is the first in a series of videos, and today we'll cover the basics of getting started. Unified Engineering is the overall platform that combines 1D, 2D, and 3D engineering data into one space. 1D covers datasheets and lists. 2D covers schematics such as P and IDs and instrumentation diagrams. 3D is the design environment, where plant models and equipment are handled. In the app, you'll see a list of projects that are available. For this demonstration, we'll choose a project called Proj APS. Alongside the main project, you may also see reference projects such as ACP, PSL, and CPL. After selecting a project, under Setup, you will enter a username and password specific to that project. These credentials define what you can do inside the project, whether you can read or write to the database, and which modules you can access. At this stage, you'll also select your scope. A scope is a collection of databases that work together to give you access to different parts of the project. For this course, we'll choose the scope All. Now, just above the setup, you'll see the list of modules available under this project. On the 3D side, which will be the main focus of this course, you'll be working with several modules. Model, for 3D modeling. Draw, for creating 2D drawings. Isodraft, for producing isometric drawings. Spool, for generating spools from your modeled pipework. Paragon, for catalogs and specifications of component-driven items in the model. PropCon, for defining properties of those components. You also have Engineer and Engineer Config modules, which support 1D and 2D. For now, we'll begin with the Model module. Let's take a look at the E3D Design model interface. At the very top left of the screen, you'll see the Quick Access toolbar. Below this, you will see the ribbon. The ribbon is organized into tabs and groups, with each tab containing a set of related commands. The middle of the screen is your viewing area. This is where your 3D model will appear and where you'll do most of your work. On either side of the viewing area, you can have what are called sliding forms. For example, let's open the Model Explorer. The Model Explorer is your way of browsing the project database, things like sites, zones, and elements. Now let's look at the right side. If I select an item in the model and choose to view its attributes, you'll see the attribute form appear on the right. If I don't need it, I can collapse it to free up more workspace. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see the notification area on the left, the message area in the middle, and the status bar on the right. And finally, within the viewing area itself, you'll notice a small navigation tool called the Power Compass. By default, it usually appears near the bottom, but you can drag it anywhere you like. We will move it to the top right since it keeps it out of the way while still being easy to use. One of the strengths of E3D is that you can customize the workspace to fit the way you like to work. Let's look at a few simple adjustments you can make. First, if you want the maximum viewing space, you can hide the sliding forms on the left or right as we previously discussed. Alternatively, you also have this clear canvas button near the top right corner which allows you to hide all open forms. Clicking the button again will bring the forms back. Next, the Power Compass can be configured to match user preferences. By default, it controls the orientation of the view, but the behavior can be adjusted. For example, the compass can be set to look north rather than look from north, changing how the model reorients when the north button is clicked. The size of the compass can also be customized, either kept large for visibility or reduced to occupy less screen space. The sliding forms themselves can also be divided. On the left, the panel can be split into two sections, which allows, for example, the Model Explorer to remain open in one section while another tool is used in the other. We can open another Explorer panel to see what this setup would look like. The same applies to the right side, where we could display, for example, a command window next to the attributes form. For multi-monitor setups, forms are not restricted to the main application window. They can be undocked and floated onto a second screen, keeping the 3D workspace clear on the primary monitor. You can also float the entire form area, which can have multiple forms within it. Finally, right-clicking inside the viewing area opens the power wheel. This context-sensitive menu changes depending on the element selected, and provides quick access to navigation and editing tools directly within the model space. Next, let's look at the toolbars and disciplines. At the very top of the screen is the Quick Access toolbar. This bar holds commonly used commands and can be customized to match your workflow. For example, if there's a tool that is used frequently, such as search, it can be added directly to the Quick Access toolbar with a simple right-click and Add to Quick Access toolbar. Below that sits the ribbon, which is divided into tabs. Each tab groups together commands related to a specific type of task. In addition, you also have discipline workspaces. Changing the discipline changes the tabs that are shown in the ribbon. For example, if the equipment workspace is selected, an extra tab appears with commands for equipment modeling. If you switch to piping or structures, you'll see tabs with tools specific to those disciplines. Next, let's explore how the Model Explorer connects with the 3D workspace. The Model Explorer provides a database view of the project. From here, elements such as sites, zones, or individual items can be browsed and selected. To bring an element into the 3D view, there are a couple of options. Under the View tab in the ribbon, the Add C command can be used to display the current element. Alternatively, elements can simply be dragged and dropped from the Model Explorer into the 3D workspace. Remember that to maximize the modeling area, the Clear Canvas button in the corner of the screen can be used, giving us more space to work on the model. Once elements are in the view, navigation is handled using the mouse. Pan by holding the middle mouse button along with the control key and then move the mouse. Zoom by scrolling the mouse wheel forwards or backwards. The zoom is always centered around the position of your cursor, so if you move the cursor to a different part of the screen, the zoom will focus on that area instead. Rotate by pressing and dragging the middle mouse button while hovering over a point of interest. Notice that the center of rotation depends on where the cursor is placed. If the cursor is positioned over an object and the view is rotated, that object becomes the pivot point. If the cursor is in empty space, the view rotates around the general model area. This makes navigation intuitive and keeps the area of interest in focus. Another important concept is the current element, C. Whenever something is selected in the Model Explorer, that item becomes the current element. The same applies in reverse. When something is selected directly in the 3D view, using the left mouse button, the Model Explorer highlights it as the current element. The Explorer will follow the item that you've selected in the 3D view. Now that we've looked at how to navigate using the mouse, let's explore two additional tools that make working in the 3D view faster: the Power Wheel and the Power Compass. Right-clicking inside the viewing area brings up the Power Wheel. When you select an element, the wheel adds commands specific to that object. One very useful option here is Center View, which quickly shifts the camera so the chosen item is brought in the center of the view. The Power Compass gives directional control of the view. For example, clicking on north aligns the model to look north, while clicking down aligns the view to look down. Other options are also available depending on the perspective needed, and the compass makes it easy to switch between them quickly. Below the compass are small left and right arrows. These allow cycling through previous and next views, much like moving backward and forward in a web browser. It's an efficient way to revisit earlier viewpoints without manually rotating or repositioning. You can also create multiple views inside your workspace. Under the View tab, the option Copy to Clone View creates another view with the same content as the current one. Any changes made in one clone view are reflected in the other. For example, if we create a new vertical tab group and add in the pipe rack from the structures, it appears in the clone view as well. Next, Copy to Separate View creates a new view that looks the same at first, but is independent. Let's create a horizontal grouping for the separate view. If we now remove an element in the separate view, you'll see that the element remains visible in the original. There is also an option to copy a local view. To demonstrate, let's select 3 items. Multiple items can be selected by holding down the Control key and left-clicking. When we copy these into a local view, only the selected items are displayed. Now let's move this local view into a horizontal tab group with the original view. Note that views can be moved between groups by right-clicking on the tab and choosing where to place them. That brings us to the end of this first session on E3D 4.0 in Unified Engineering. We've introduced the basics: logging in, exploring the interface, customizing the workspace, and navigating the 3D environment. You may not be ready to start modeling just yet, but you now have the foundation to move on to the next step. In the upcoming sessions, we'll build on this and get into the real hands-on work inside E3D. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next part of the series.